So about 1 year after I started collecting Yu-Gi-Oh! Again, a set called Ancient Guardians came out. And this is a set that I think for most people was very forgettable. Two notable cards from this set were Vinamanaga, Collector Rare, and Ogdo Abyss, the Ogdoadic Overlord. So of the archetypes released, my favorite was definitely the Ogdoadic archetype. It was this reptile type of archetype based around snakes. Snake Rain was useful inside of the archetype. The point being that the set has gone down as one of the worst in terms of value long term. You know, basically out of the gate, it was not popular, and then for a long time afterwards, it has just completely plummeted in value, hasn't appreciated. It was printed into oblivion, but nevertheless, I thought the cards were really cool. And I've mentioned this on, many videos, how much I love the Collector Rare. I mean, Vinamanaga, the deity of poisonous snakes, is one of my favorite collector rares, if not my favorite collector rare of all time. Say what you want about how this card is not playable in any capacity. There's one thing you can't deny, and that's that this card is beautiful. This is just as good of a collector rare as you're going to see. The texture is incredible, the colors are incredible, and there are also other fun ones like Ogdo Abyss, the Ogdoadic Overlord. And these two cards, among the other ones released in the set, really got me into modern collector rares, and I went down the street of, going after modern collector rares for quite some time until something more recent came out, and that was the quarter century secret rare. And I think the most viewed video on my channel is about how I basically talk about how I think quarter century secret rares are the new way to collect Yu-Gi-Oh, whether you like it or not. Basically, these were more or less forced down our throats. They printed so many of them. However, by printing so many of them, they had a lot of cards that were very memorable, many of which hadn't received other modern high rarity printings. Morphing Jar is one of them. And it's extremely sparkly. I actually quite like the look of these cards. I know a lot of people say, it's too sparkly, etc., etc. I think the look is quite good. But there's one thing you can't deny, and that's they have just overused this type of rarity. They've been printed in every which way in every set for the past 2 years. Now they've moved on to Starlight Rares, and they're basically, just continuing the enormous printing spree that has gone on for years now. And as I said, whether you like it or not, you had to collect these things because you could collect them in sets. There are tons of very, very popular cards. Cyber Dragon is one of my favorite cards of all time. Even cards that are a bit more niche, I still really like here's Mobius the Frost Monarch. One thing you can notice is that they butcher the foiling by just putting the foiling over the artwork instead of underneath it like they do for Cyber Dragon. Anyways, there are just so many cards printed in this rarity that you were bound to find something that you did like to collect. And that has gone on for some time. But eventually, I just kind of got tired of this style of card where they just print everything all at once. It just felt like there was no chase behind any of these things, and they would inevitably just print a new chase, or at least 100 new chases every rarity collection, which there were 4 of them. It just it turned me off to these specific cards. And in the meantime, I've just kind of tuned out modern Yu-Gi-Oh, which is something that I for a long time said was, going to be the death of my collecting journey, but it's kind of rekindled my own interest in collecting for some time. And so I wanted to go back to a binder that haven't touched a whole lot in recent memory, but I've started making plans for this binder, and specifically in my main collection binder, I've been making a ton of pickups. I showed off a bunch of them last video, but here are some notables. I've got, let me take this out of the top loader with the marking on it. Picked up a first edition Metal Raiders Change of Heart. Beautiful, beautiful copy of this card. There are some scratches on the sleeve itself, but the underlying copy is quite nice. And so I've just been picking up a bunch of these vintage cards in a way that I wasn't really picking them up before. Here's Axe of Despair, another first edition vintage card. This one's out of Magic Ruler. I won't bother taking that out of the case. And I also picked up this Copycat, which this is, I believe, the first printing. This is the Shonen Jump magazine printing. Very cool card. I didn't go after the retro pack one. One, because it's a lot more expensive, and two, because I don't think that's the original printing. I think everything in retro pack is a reprint. But as you can see, I've really been focusing on the vintage cards, and so I wanted to take a look, go back, because this is the stuff that I've sort of noticed myself going back to, as a lot of the modern stuff has, you know, I've just gotten a little bit burnt out on the current collecting space. So again, you know, this is a pretty obvious first page. You've been looking at it in the background. We've got LOB Blue Eyes, LOB Dark Magician, LOB Red Eyes B Dragon, or Black Dragon. Just some really, really nice cards. I mean, we can look at one of the OG print Blue Eyes, if I can figure out how to get it out of the binder. It just has that nice sort of vintage glow to it. Really, really beautiful. I don't know. There's something about these old ultra rares. You know, it looks very different than this. And even though it's not nearly as sparkly, I think there's something nicer about this kind of vintage look. And I'm sure many of you guys agree with it. To each their own. And I still think there's a place for this, but this is what attracts me currently. And so I've really just been picking up a bunch of vintage, super and ultra rares. A lot of them in, you know, PSA 8, PSA 9 graded condition. Got Dark Magician, Red Eyes Black Dragon. I mean, this is a really, really cool one. And so you can see this first page is already filled out. I don't need to pick up more copies of these cards, but there was a while where these things were actually pretty cheap to pick up. I think in recent, you know, maybe over the past year or so, people have picked up a lot of these original print on limbs, and so they're a little bit harder to come by. On the right side, I've got a copy of Exodia out of Legend of Blue Eyes, and then Millennium Shield, McDonald's pack, and then the Egyptian God cards at a GBI. And something I have to note about the cards in this binder is that they are not in the best shape. Now, the cards that I put in my main binder have to be near mint or better. These ones, I just kind of pick them up in whatever shape looks good enough in a sleeve. And it allows you to really, especially because I'm not going after first edition in this binder, it allows me to just pick up a ton of stuff. And so it's a lot of fun. And if you're collecting on a budget, a lot of these cards are not as expensive as you might think, relative to how vintage and just original they feel. On this page, I've got the Dark Magician and Blue Eyes out of the starter decks. I mean, these used to be really, really cheap for quite some time, and I just, you know, that original foiling, I really don't think you can beat. Just looks so nice. Then we've also got our good friend Blue Eyes. I'll take this guy. It'll be easier for me to get out. I mean, it's hard to beat these original arts. There are some cool new arts. For example, this got an ultimate rare, which I think looks really nice. It's just, I don't know, I haven't picked it up. Let me know what you guys are feeling with the current collecting space. It's just, I don't know how to describe it other than I'm a little burnt out on the modern collecting sphere. It's hard to directly express all of my feelings towards the current space because I'm not a hater of the sort of quarter century secret rare and starlight rare. Like, I still think it looks good. I think there's a place for it. I just think they've gone a little bit too all in, and I think they printed too many cards in that rarity. It's hard for me to get excited about some of the rarities that I used to get excited for, like Collector's Rare, for example, knowing that they're just going to get an immediate reprint. There's no point in me looking forward to the next set because I'll never buy anything out of the latest set until years after all the cards have sort of plummeted in value because they've printed those same cards in whatever the newest rarity is 2 years from now. And so, I don't know, I've just been taking it a bit easier. looking back at some of these older binders that I haven't been touching as much recently, and oh, I just realized this is actually a first edition. I actually remember the story behind this. I bought an unlimited copy for really cheap. Guy sent me a first edition. I'm the type of guy where, you know, I'm a seller myself, and so I know what it's like to send the wrong card. He sent me a first edition. I was like, hey man, you sent me a first edition, I'll send it back. He was like, you know, just keep it. Appreciate you letting me know. So that was a lot of, you know, really nice of him. Here's a BPT Blue Eyes. These old secret rares, you know, I was talking about the ultras and supers. These old secrets look incredible as well. And so I've kind of just been, you know, I'm planning out for this TCG Player Black Friday sale, a bunch of these cards that I want to fill in. And then also, you know, I've been very active on eBay in a way that I haven't been for years, just picking up. I wish some of them had arrived. A lot of them were sent to the PSA vault to avoid sales tax, because I pay over 10% in sales tax, so it's just a lot cheaper to send it to Delaware. But, you know, I've been very active in picking those up, picking up different PSA 8s, PSA 9s, as I said, and cracking them. And so I've made, you know, substantial progress on a lot of my main binder from these vintage cards. And so I do hope to make an updated binder video at some point showing off my latest stuff. I don't know if it warrants an entire new video given that I made one like a year ago, or actually I think it was 6 months ago, but I'll probably show it off in some capacity once I've filled everything in. Look at this card. I mean, Gemini Elf, original print, Labyrinth and Nightmare. Really, really beautiful card. Unlimited. I do love these unlimited. I mean, it's just, it feels like a cheat code because people like myself are foolish enough to, at every opportunity, go after first edition for their main binders. And then if you're collecting on a budget, just collect stuff that's lightly played, mod play, and unlimited. It just will save you so much money. And so for me, that's kind of what I'm doing. Besides my main binder, which I'm spending absurd amounts of money. These are some of my favorite cards of all time. We've got Alpha, Beta, and Gamma, the Magnet Warriors. I remember Duels of the Roses. I'm sure some of you guys do as well. I mean, that was just such a unique game. They really don't make games like that anymore, just like random games that aren't Yu-Gi-Oh, but some other parallel universe version of Yu-Gi-Oh. Those are a lot of fun. And so I'm also very interested in knowing what you guys are collecting as well, because I know I'm not the only one feeling some amount of fatigue. We've got some tin Dark Magician Girls up here. I guess I'll show off one of these. I do want to pick up an MFC Dark Magician Girl, but they're very expensive, and so I haven't pulled the trigger on one just yet. For some reason this card looks fake, but it looks real as well, so I know I'm just imagining it. Tinzo, this is the classic. You get the BPT Jinzo. I think I picked up this card for like $5 years ago. Such a cool card. I have no idea what it costs now. Time Wizard, what a classic. Beautiful card out of Metal Raiders. That's one I was considering buying for my main collection binder in first edition. Here you can see I've got the beginnings of the Chaos Trio, Dark Magician, Blackluster Soldier, and then I'll probably put a CED in the middle there. Ejection Fairy Lily, haven't finished my playset of her. Ejection Fairy Lily, I'll be the first one to say, I actually don't think that this card looks amazing. The foiling, it's a little more subtle, which I can appreciate how, you know, all the hearts are foil and the syringe is also foil, but not my favorite of the vintage secret rares. Yada Garasu, on the other hand, absolute stunner. Love Yada. Got Lava Golem down here. I actually, in my most recent video, I was talking about how like some of the artworks in the past were creepy, and one of you guys brought up Lava Golem, which I forgot to mention. Really cool card out of Pharaonic Guardian. Got Valkyrion. Showed the other Magnet Warriors earlier. End of Anubis. One of those cards that... This was always one that, like, back in Playground Yu-Gi-Oh, we always thought it was related to the Egyptian gods and stuff like that. So we created our own effects for End of Anubis. Sinister Serpent, very, very beautiful card as well. Just so many cool ones. Oh yeah. I haven't looked at this binder in so long, I've forgotten about some of these. Look at the foiling on that bad boy. This Black Tyranno is actually one of the first Yu-Gi-Oh cards I ever purchased after I got back into collecting. Like many people, the first thing I did was I bought like one of those random lots on eBay where they just sell you a bunch of like crap basically for $20, or I think it was $25. I probably got like $5 in value back then. But this was one of the cards that was an unlimited Black Tyranno, and I remember just thinking, wow, this is so cool. And so even though I had no idea that I'd gotten fleeced by that guy, little did he know, he lit the fire inside of me. I was so excited when I got that thing. Big Shield Gardena at a Dark Beginning 1. Another classic. Very fun. I completely forgot that I had these March Melones. I bought some more of them with the interest of putting them in my collection binder. Honestly, if these are in good condition, maybe I just put these things in there. I'll need to check this a bit more, but man, that looks pretty clean. Maybe I have cleaner copies in here than I had bought for my collection. Perfectly Ultimate Great Moth, Rocket Warriors, so I'm going to pick up more of the tin promos here. Oh yeah, Rituals. These are some of my favorites. We've got the Secret Rares, Javelin Beetle, Magician of Black Chaos out of the premium packs. We've got Blackluster Soldier, Relinquished, very, very cool. This is another one that I've been eyeing to pick up from my main binder. I picked one up, but it's not in the best condition, even though I cracked it out of a BGS 8.5. So I've been eyeing some better condition versions of that. Paladin of White Dragon, awesome, awesome card out of MFC. Man, that's just such a beautiful holo. And then this is one that I actually just picked up at PSA 9 first edition to crack for my main binder. We got the Masked Beast. Just one of those classic, creepy, creepy cards. I'm pretty sure, yeah, I'm almost positive that in SM, Spell of Mask, which is the set that has the original SDK art Blue Eyes Ultimate Rare in the Japanese side of things, they also have an Ultimate Rare Masked Beast, and that's just a beautiful, beautiful foiling for that Ultimate Rare. Wish we got that in the TCG, but that's how it goes sometimes. Got some Thousand Dragon Secret Rares up top. Classic. Gaia the Dragon Champion. For the longest time, this was like a $5 card out of LOB Unlimited, and so what I would do is I would just buy a bunch of these off of TCG Player and then keep all the ones that were like the original print, and then just sell off the other ones at a loss. And so I ended up picking up 3 of these bad boys. We got BBT XYZ Dragon Cannon. This is one that I was considering to pick up for my main collection binder. I mean, it's just a beautiful card. Might as well show this guy off. XYZ Dragon Cannon. We got some Dark Paladins. We got the original art. Well, this is, I guess, the corrected art, where it's, you get it out of MFC for the Unlimited print out of the packs, but you get the other artwork. This is the DMG artwork. You get this out of the first edition packs, and you have to set, you back in the day had to send it back into Konami in order to get the first edition version here. So there was, my understanding is that there was a period of time where like these first editions were super, super expensive, and then Thousand Eyes Restrict down here. So, oh no, I do have a little bit more. We've got Last Warrior from Another Planet. That's a card I completely forgot about. That is another one. Man, I'm just going down memory lane here, looking at all these cards, remembering ones that I need to pick up. Can't remember. This looks like a reprint. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's not. Maybe this is original print. I don't know. So, and then Dragon Master Knight. So this is the first binder of sort of vintage cards. Given that I'm at 20 minutes, I'll just cut it off here. I was actually going to go through my spells and traps as well, but maybe I'll save that for another video. I ended up starting off talking about how collecting has changed, and it has. I've just, you know, for me, I've gone back to the vintage side of things, and so I've been having a lot of fun with that. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys are collecting these days. It's been your boy What's Homar Melon. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.